All right, welcome to the National League Division Series between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Atlanta Braves. Again, my name is Scott Webb, and we are going to talk through this game. We'll use the same format that we have been. We'll go over the line, we'll go over my numbers on the game, and then we'll go through the starting pitchers, the metrics on them, 3 true outcomes, base runner, strike zone. We'll go into the game flow a little bit and bullpens, offense, and then come up with some plays. So first of all, the line on this game right now is Dallas Keuchel, Atlanta minus 143, and the total on it is 9, shaded to the over at 125. This game opened at 131, so we're seeing some money in on Atlanta today, and we're also seeing money certainly on the over. It opened at 8. So anyway, that being said, let's talk about my numbers. My numbers said the total should be 9, so I see that number is already right where it needs to be, and people playing it over. I don't think there's value there anymore. And then we're looking at my numbers show a little different for St. Louis here. I'm showing basically that this game should be more like a pick'em type game. Atlanta 110, something like that. So there might be some value here to the St. Louis side when it comes to just pure numbers. However, as I broke down the game, and you'll see as we go, I'm going to give you a hint of what's going on here. I don't like the St. Louis side. So let's talk about the metrics. Starting pitcher-wise for St. Louis, Miles Mikolas. And again, I use the last 30 days numbers, not what they did in April, May, that kind of stuff. So ERA 3.34, and his xFIP numbers are 4.48, and his SIERA numbers are 4.56. Now, these are not numbers like what we've seen from any of the other playoff games to this point. Hence, I think that's why a lot of people are playing these games as overs, because the starting pitchers do give up runs in this case. His FIP number is 4.73. Now, fielding independent pitching is what FIP is, and that's the reliance of a starting pitcher on the defense to make some outs. So he's very reliant on his defense to make outs, and you'll see that coming up in a second. Dallas Keuchel, earned run average 3.71, his FIP number 4.74, xFIP 4.68, and SIERA 4.79. So giving out all those numbers and all that stuff, just kind of matching it all out, it's a wash. The only thing that I can tell you is that based off of those specific numbers, that there should be opportunities with guys on base. And let's look at the next outcomes here, which is the 3 true outcomes. And 3 true outcomes is what a pitcher does to control the game. First thing he does is get strikeouts. And neither one of these pitchers are good strikeout pitchers. Miles Mikolas 20%, 20.5, which is very low. Dallas Keuchel 15.5, so even lower. So both of these guys are very reliant on their defense because they don't keep guys off base on their own. Secondary to that is the walk rate, 5.7 for Mikolas. That's very good. So he doesn't put guys on, so he's not adding to his problem. And Dallas Keuchel 7.7, just a little above average. So if we're going to look at it from a perspective of where we think that there's an edge, there might be a small edge to Miles Mikolas in terms of limiting guys getting on base. And then we go look at home runs per 9 innings, and you see that Miles Mikolas 1.52. So he's given up 1.5 home runs every 9 innings that he pitches, and Dallas Keuchel 106. So we got an edge there for Dallas Keuchel when it comes to the home runs in play. So if you're looking at 3 true outcomes, in theory, you have a small edge here to Miles Mikolas for St. Louis. However, this is where things start to change. We are looking at base runners now and ground ball rates, for example. And ground balls typically are not necessarily a sign of extra base hits, and they are singles type of a thing, or outs. And when you look at the ground ball rate is 33 or 38. I'm sorry, for Miles Mikolas, and you're looking at 51 for Dallas Keuchel. So Dallas is getting the balls hit on the ground. He's getting the outs through that, which is softer contact. And Miles Mikolas is not getting that. He's more of a fly ball pitcher, which is more dangerous here in Atlanta tonight. So that's an edge, and that's a pretty big edge when it comes to the base runners part of it. Miles Mikolas, we talked about, small advantage on the walk rate, not much. Hard hit rate is 48% for Miles Mikolas, so almost 50% of the balls in play are hard hit rates for him, and only 35 for Keuchel. That's about average. So when you're starting to think about balls in play and how hard they're hit, again, Atlanta's going to have a pretty big edge in that category. And then Babbitt, balls in play batting average. The batting average for Miles Mikolas, 280, which is just above the average. Say 250 is about the average. Another one is Keuchel. He's 315, so he's well above the average. So that just typically means we should expect balls to be hit more towards fielders when it comes to the idea of Dallas Keuchel today. So there's another edge there. So when it comes to base runners, we've got big edges all over the place here for Atlanta. And then when it comes to strike zone, we want to look at how the balls move and swings and misses. Well, we already know these guys aren't big strikeout guys. Neither one of them have great O swings, and neither one of them have great swinging strike percentages in the strike zone. So that means that theoretically balls are going to get put in play. But the difference being is that softer contact off of Keuchel, ground balls off of Keuchel, that limits the damage that can happen there when it comes to that. So game flow wise, I'm looking at it, and one of the things that stood out to me was that Dallas Keuchel on the third plate appearances for the opponents, the SOPS plus is 145. Now remember, SOPS plus is the on-base plus slugging for the hitter against the pitcher, and in this case 100 is average, and for a pitcher you want it to be below that 100, and in this case it's above by quite a bit. So that means he's 45% worse than an average pitcher on the third plate appearance for the opponent. That tells me that he's probably going to throw 5 or 6 innings at most, just because the manager for Atlanta, he knows that situation, and he'll put in the bullpen, and that's where we have another edge. The Atlanta bullpen xFIP over the last 30 days is a 3.66, and St. Louis is a 4.94. So the edge here is going to be that if and when it gets to the bullpen, which this could turn out to be a bullpen game, I would expect that Atlanta is going to be the team that does more favorably. Plus they're at home, so that should help. And then when you start to think about getting to the bullpen early, that is another edge for the Atlanta Braves. So there's a lot going on there for Atlanta when it comes to that side of it. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the game flow here. Dallas Keuchel, he hasn't faced St. Louis since August of 16. So any of the numbers that you may use that would show what he does against the hitters and what he does against that team is kind of meaningless at this point when it comes to that specific category. However, the big thing to note here is that he is a dynamite pitcher in Atlanta. He's made 10 starts at home, 62 innings, 57 hits, 20 runs. That's an earned run average of 2.74 and a batting average against a 239. And his SOPS plus is a 71. That means he's 29% better than an average pitcher at home. He's also awesome when it comes to high leverage situations. He's held opponents to 159 batting average and an SOPS of 42. So when he gets in trouble, he really bears down, and he's had the experience to do so. And in this particular case, his experience in the postseason is another reason why you got to like Atlanta here. He's made 9 postseason starts with a 3.31 earned run average. He's made 51 and almost 52 innings pitched, only giving up 43 hits in the postseason. So we like the idea here that Dallas Keuchel is going to be one of those special times especially at home, and he's going to pitch really well today. I expect St. Louis to have a very right-handed lineup. Dallas Keuchel against left-handers is murder. He's a 189 batting average against and an OPS plus of 62. Against right-handers, they bat 281 with an SOPS plus of 113. So he's 13% worse than average against right-handed hitters. And in the last 28 days, Dallas Keuchel's a 108. So he's basically an average pitcher. But at home, he's in experience, I think, is why we're going with Atlanta, and that's why Atlanta's going with Atlanta. When you look at Miles Mikolas on the other side, his last 28 days, SOPS plus is a 121, so he's 21% worse than an average pitcher over his last month. Against right-handed batters, he's got an average against of 261 and an SOPS plus of 94. Against left-handed batters, 284 and SOPS plus of 105. So he's either right at the average, just below, or a little above, no matter whether you're right-handed or left-handed. So again, that's an edge to the Atlanta Braves. On the road, he's been very poor. His on-the-road average against is 297, so he's almost 300 on the road for the hitters. SOPS plus is 120. So he's 20% worse than an average pitcher on the road. 88 innings pitched, 105 hits. Now that's what is that? 17 more hits than innings pitched, and he's given up 17 home runs on the road. So again, I really have a hard time trying to find support for Miles Mikolas in this game. In the first inning, he is a 93 SOPS plus, and in the second inning, 138. So it's very likely that he's going to get behind in this game at the beginning of the game. High leverage, he's not very good in high leverage spots either. Batting average against of 292 and an SOPS plus of 136. So we're going to expect him, when he gets in trouble, to give up the runs and not be able to bull down like Keuchel does. In terms of going through the lineup, 107 SOPS plus in the first time through, second time through 106, third time through 98. So he is worse than average and then average at best. And on 6 days of rest, which is where he's at, he is average 99. So he's not got any advantages when going there. Some of the other things to keep in mind here in this particular game is the offenses. St. Louis is number 13 against left-handed pitching, and they are, and that's weighted on the weighted runs created plus. And then if you look at weighted runs above average, they're again average, if not just a little bit below average. They're sitting at number 17, and weighted on base average, they're at number 18. So that again doesn't signify that there's any strength in the lineup when it comes to the St. Louis side. When it comes to the Atlanta side, their hitting numbers have been pretty average over the last 7 days. So we're just going to expect that Atlanta and St. Louis on offenses are fairly equal, with the expectation that because Mikolas is a little worse to wear on the road and not as good consistently wise against righties and lefties, that there's a big edge here for the offense for Atlanta. And I would expect them to capitalize on that. That being said, they have exposure to Miles Mikolas. He's faced the lineup 107 times at-bat-wise, 25 hits, most of it being damage done by Freeman and Swanson and Cervelli. So, there's your left-handed guy that hits. And it looked like they had a pretty good lineup in there today against St. Louis. So away splits, we talked about that a little bit. 17 starts for Mikolas, 88 innings, 105 hits, 56 runs, 5.40 earned run average, and a 297 batting average against. So wrap all this kind of up and put it in a nutshell. We got to find a way to take this information and bet it. So first thing I did was I took the Atlanta Braves in the first 5 innings minus a half run. And you're getting plus number. I got plus 105 for that. And I like the idea that we talked about with Keuchel at home being very good and Miles Mikolas being on the road and struggling quite a bit. And then we talked about him struggling in the first and the second innings. And then I looked at the over number, and I said it was 9. Now I'm looking at it, and it's now 9.5. People are playing this game over, and money's coming in on the over. But I think a better alternative, instead of trying to run up to see if they get 10 actual runs, is to look at the over 28 on runs plus hits plus errors. And this is sort of a prop bet type bet, so I don't bet a lot on it. It's like a quarter size bet for me. But I did the over at 28, and when I played it, I got it at minus 102, and that's as opposed to playing over the 9.5 number or 9, whatever the runs are. And the way that you kind of break down the runs plus hits plus errors, just as a quick side note, in theory, it takes 2 hits to score 1 run. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, and 9 is the total, then 9 times 2 is 18, and then add back in the runs, that's 27. And then you look at any other extra hits or any other errors that can put it over that 28 number, and now it's up to 9.5. So if it's over 9.5, then that number jumps up even more. So anyway, I think the over runs plus hits plus errors is a pretty good idea. And I did take the Atlanta Braves minus 140 for the full game. It is now 144. So as long as that number stays under 150, I think you've got a pretty decent play there. I really tried to decide whether I wanted to play the Atlanta Braves in the series at minus 140 or if I wanted to play each one of these games. And I think that there's going to be value in playing each one of the games because like tomorrow night, Flaherty is going to be pitching on the road in Atlanta against Fultonavich. And my guess is that you're going to get a pretty decent number on Flaherty tomorrow, and I think St. Louis will probably win that one. Anyway, let's see if we can keep these runs going. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.